What's going on? We're back with another week of college football ahead of us. I believe it's week 9 of the college football season. And the Fox Big Noon kickoff game this week is Ohio State at Penn State, a big time Big Ten clash. So we'll be jumping right into that. Looking at the stats for each team, Ohio State's offense has been on fire all season. They're averaging just over 49 points per game with 312 yards through the air and 205 on the ground. Defensively, they're giving up just under 15 points per game, and they're averaging giving up about 150 passing yards per game and 91 rushing yards per game. Penn State, on the other hand, offensively is averaging a little over 33 points. They're a pretty balanced offense in terms of run versus pass. As well as Ohio State, and they're averaging about 245 passing yards per game and just under 180 rushing yards per game. Defensively, they are giving up about 19 points per game, 232 yards through the air, and about 140 rushing yards per game. So, just taking a look at each team's stats, you'll see that, on paper, Ohio State looks like the much better team here, the much more dominant team. I mean, they're averaging over 500 yards of offense a game, almost 50 points per game, and they're giving up less than 250 yards per game. So they're doubling each team's yardage, and they are tripling each team's point total. But Penn State's at home, and this rivalry has shown to be pretty intense and pretty close over the past few years. So it should be interesting to see. I would expect Ohio State to have success running the ball on Penn State after what Michigan just did to them a couple weeks ago. And with Penn State's secondary being very highly touted, I would expect Ohio State not to throw the ball as much. I think they are going to lean more on the running game just to show the rest of the country that they are kind of a multifaceted offense. It's not just their receivers and quarterback, chucking the ball around, but they can rely on their offensive line and running backs. So I think that'll be the matchup to see. It'll be the Penn State front seven versus the Ohio State front seven on offense and running back. So it'll be an interesting one to take a look at. Jumping into the against the spread stats for each team, both teams are similar in covering the spread. Ohio State's 4-2-1 overall this year when covering the spread, and they're 1-0 as an away team and away favorite. So they have yet to not cover as an away team and away favorite, I guess you could say. They've only had one away game, which is a bit interesting. The Penn State stats, on the other hand, they're 4-3 overall this year when in covering the spread, and they're 2-2 as a home team. So they've had some success. They've also not covered. I think that's partly due to a lot of 28, 35 point spreads in non-conference play. But with that being said, over under wise, both teams are 5-2 in their overs this season, with Ohio State being 1-0 on the road and Penn State being 2-2 at home. So, I mean, in terms of the spread, it's a little tricky here because both teams have had success covering the spread, and the overs, if the records tell you anything, it would be to lean towards the over rather than the under in this game. Taking a look at the all-time series, Ohio State leads the all-time series with a 22-14 record. Last 6 games, though, have been decided by 2 scores or less, which is important to look at when taking a look at the spread for this game. Line movement wise, the spread opened up at Ohio State minus 13.5, and it has moved to minus 15.5 in favor of Ohio State. So kind of that little stat with the last 6 games having been decided by 2 scores or less, that would lean towards Penn State covering. 2 scores, you're looking at a max of 16 points. So I would lean towards Penn State covering here, but that's just kind of going off the numbers and everything. And then the point total opened up at 55.5, and it's moved to 61. So the books have kind of taken a look at the stats and how each team has played so far this year and realized that they're gonna need to bump this point total up. And then 67% of the public is on Ohio State to cover. I would disagree. I think Ohio State's look good, really good against really bad teams, but I don't think they've really played anyone that's of importance or stature. I mean, they played Notre Dame, but Notre Dame has been struggling this year. I think the best team they've played is Notre Dame. Iowa's probably second, but Iowa is just a crapshoot this year. You never know what you're going to get from them. I think Penn State is going to cover here, and that's going to be my pick for this game. It's going to be Penn State to cover. Like I said, the last 6 games would have been covered by plus 16. So I like Penn State. I also like the under. Penn State has an elite secondary, which should force Ohio State to run the ball, and Penn State's offense is pretty run dominant. Sean Clifford is a good quarterback, and their run kind of opens up passing lanes for him, but I would expect them to try and run the ball. So if both teams are going to try and lean on the run and have success on the ground, I'd expect this game not to have a ton of points scored. I think when Ohio State does put up a lot of points, they throw the ball. And don't get me wrong, they could try and prove a point against Penn State secondary and just try and throw the ball over them, but I think they'd be stupid to do so. I think they should be trying to run the ball all game, get out of Penn State with a win, and move on. But we'll see what happens. Penn State has probably seen the blueprint on how to beat Ohio State. You got to run the ball, so both teams are definitely going to stick to that. And I just like the under. I know the stats and the records point towards the over, but I think this is one where Vegas is going to bump up the point total pretty high, and I think you can kind of count on the under here. The parlay I cooked up for this game is going to include Penn State plus 21.5. I did say the last 6 games have been covered by 2 scores or less. This is just a little wiggle room. If Ohio State gets a touchdown late and they win by 21, I like 21.5 to kind of be that deciding factor. I think Ohio State will win by no more than 21 points, in my opinion. But we'll have to wait and see. But I like Penn State plus 21.5 in this scenario, especially being the home team. And as I just mentioned, I like the under. I boosted it to 68.5 just to give us a little extra possession, a little extra wiggle room. And then the third prop I added just to kind of boost the odds is Travion Henderson over 50 plus rushing yards. I think Ohio State should have success on the ground, and I think Travion Henderson's going to be the lead back for this game. Mayan Williams will get probably 10 to 15 touches, but I'd expect Travion to get 20 to 25 touches in this game. So I think Travion Henderson over 50 plus rushing yards could hit pretty easily. I think it could maybe even hit in the first half. So it's just something to throw in there to boost the odds for it. And that's all I got for this game. If if you agree with my picks, you disagree, you have a different opinion on this game, feel free to leave your opinion in the comments section. If you enjoyed the video, I'd appreciate it if you liked it. If you're looking for more game breakdowns and analysis, kind of like this, definitely hit the subscribe button. And yeah, that's all I got for this matchup, and I'll see you guys in the next video.